So how do you get the cheapest car insurance rate? I'm Jason Wamsgans with Partners Insurance. Let's get into it. No one wants to overpay for their car insurance, and we all want to know whether or not we're getting a good deal. Let's discuss some of the possible pitfalls and what to look out for. Discounts. There are a ton of discounts available, and they're changing all the time as insurance companies try to one-up each other. You've got things like good student discounts, discount for being married, bundling your homeowners. I'll put the list below. It's too extensive to go over here, but that will help you to verify when you get your quotes that the right discounts have been applied and you're receiving the best rate that you can possibly get. You can also reduce or adjust your coverages. Now, you want to be very careful here so you don't get yourself in a bind. One of the first things you can look at is Roadside Assistance, okay? If you already have a AAA membership, you don't want to be doubling up on coverage. Another option would be just don't have the coverage at all. Roadside Assistance typically will cost under $100 per call, and you can self-insure that and decide to not put that on your policy. Another one would be rental car. Okay, if your car is in an accident and it needs to be in the repair shop for a week, you're going to have to figure out transportation. If you have an extra car that you can use, great. Or again, if you have like a AAA membership that you can use, that's great as well. If not, though, we recommend purchasing this coverage on your policy because at $50 plus per day for a rental car, it can get expensive really quick. Another thing you can do is raise your deductibles. Your full coverage, as most people will call it, consists of comprehensive and collision. Each one of those will have a deductible associated with it. So you'll have a comprehensive deductible and you'll have a collision deductible. Let's say right now you have a $500 deductible for each of those. You can raise that to $1,000. It's actually a pretty good deal to do that. But I will caution you, if you don't have an emergency fund equal to that amount, I wouldn't do this, or else you're going to get yourself into financial trouble. Liability limits. You really want to be careful here. In my opinion, this is not somewhere where you want to mess around and cut coverage to save a little bit of cost. So it depends on what state you're in. Your state will have minimum liability limits that you can purchase. Whatever state you're in, I would not recommend buying that minimum. But let's say, for example, you have a $25,000 per person and $50,000 per occurrence limit on your bodily injury for liability. Okay, if you were to get into an accident and you were to hurt someone in that accident, that one person, you're only going to have $25,000 in coverage for their medical expenses. In a lot of cases, you're going to fall short here. So let's just take an example. Let's say you're in an accident and you're at fault. The vehicle that you hit is worth $45,000 and the driver that was in that vehicle sustained about $40,000 in medical bills as they were injured. Okay, if you were to have a $25,000 per person bodily injury limit and a $25,000 property damage liability limit, you are going to be well short. Okay, so you have $85,000 in damages to this person, yet your policy is only going to cover $50,000. You now have $35,000 that you are out of pocket and responsible for. To purchase a policy to give you proper coverage here might only cost you a few extra bucks a month. So for that $35,000 shortage, it's definitely not worth it. Don't cut corners when it comes to your liability limits. Go with what your agent recommends. We would typically recommend $100,000/$300,000. That gives you $100,000 per person, $300,000 total for that occurrence for bodily injury. And then we would recommend putting your property damage limit at least at $100,000. There's a lot of cars out there that are worth more than, in our example, $25,000. Also keep in mind that if you were to hit a car and that car hits another and that hits another, you're just adding each one up. So it's very possible that you can rack up $100,000 in property damage really, really quick. Okay, insider tip here. Most insurance companies will give you significant savings if your liability limits from your prior insurance company, if you're moving from one insurance company to another, if those prior limits aren't really low, like state minimums. So for example, you could save up to maybe 20% if you're moving from one insurance company to another, just by simply having 100/300 coverage on your liability instead of something like a state minimum $25,000, $50,000. There's three main ways to get your quotes. You can call several companies direct, deal with someone over the phone, or fill out a form, get their quote, and attempt to compare to others. You can use an online company in which you will get instant rates, or you can use an independent agent. So the issue with calling several companies is it is very time consuming. You're probably going to be asked the same 25, 30 questions for each one. They're going to give you their proposals. They're all going to be calling you back, emailing you, texting you. They use a lot of insurance jargon, so it's going to be very difficult for you to compare really apples to apples, one quote to another. An online company is great because you get those quotes instantly. However, a lot of times they're not accurate at all. They use raters that are online that make kind of a ballpark estimate, and they end up not being accurate when you actually go to buying the policy. And the final way there is with an independent agent, which is truly the best way to do it. You're going to one source. You're not going to be spammed by 10 or 20 different agents that your information was sold to. They're going to be able to shop lots of options for you and be able to articulate that back, what the cost to benefit is on that policy. All right, hopefully this has helped you guys to get a really good deal when you're shopping for your auto insurance. Again, I've got all the discounts listed in the description box below, so you can check those against quotes that you receive. I'm Jason Wamsgains with Partners Insurance. See you on the next one.